Caution. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to WiseWorld Carnival!
Mom and I had lost touch over the years, especially since she retired to Florida. I was rummaging through her things at the old house to get it ready to sell when I found the tape. Sitting on top of her bulbous, aging TV was a single, unmarked VHS tape. Curious, I popped it into the built-in tape player. A fuzzy gray screen came into focus. A lone figure sat in a bare, white room with no windows. There was no sound. What the heck is this? I wondered. The unkempt figure rose and swiftly approached the camera. They looked dingy, with wild hair obscuring their face. This video gave me the creeps. I pressed the fast forward button to see what would happen. The gaunt figure rapidly moved around the room before collapsing on the floor, where they lay still. I said, unsettled. I ejected the tape. Creepy as heck. I left the house in a hurry. I don't want to be alone there anymore. That night, I dreamt about that room. That room. Alone and miserably hungry, I paced the cell, screaming my lungs raw as I cried for help. I sat up in bed, sweating in the darkness. I fumbled for the light switch. The lamp cast a warm glow over a bare, white room with no windows. I felt sick to my stomach. I knew where Mom was. She hadn't gone to Florida after all. She'd been trapped in the tape, and I'd killed her by watching it. And when someone else finds it, I'd suffer the same fast-forwarding fate. I live alone now. It was hard to adjust living in rural England after having lived in a house packed to the brim with family in London. But I was trying. It's a little lonely sometimes. I left a few years ago and have kept minimal contact. It wasn't my family. They were always so good to me. They loved me and I loved them. I just felt out of touch with everything that was going on. I guess you could say it's the classic, it's not you, it's me here, but really, it was my fault. There was nothing wrong with them, but I felt more and more suffocated the longer I stayed there. That brings us to now. I managed to get some home videotapes before I left, and recently, I've been missing them. So I put the tapes in, sat down with a tub of ice cream, and played. They started off normally. The usual bustling of Christmas time at our house. Kids running around, my mother and aunts preparing dinner. I remember this Christmas fondly. I was in my room, not really doing much. My father is holding the camera as he walks upstairs toward the rooms. He pans the landing. My parents' room, my aunt's, my uncle's rooms, my sister's room, and my room. My room wasn't there. A wall stood in its former place. I put the next tape in. A beach trip to Bournemouth with just me and my parents. I distinctly remember playing in the water with my mother, but there was nothing on the tape except my mother swimming alone. I began to panic. I shoved the next tape in. My birthday. The tape starts with my family crowded around the table singing Happy Birthday. The camera zooms in between my uncle's shoulders to an untouched cake with candles alight and an empty seat. I put in the next tape, and the next. Our trip to Afton Towers, our days out in London, our trip to Tenerife. Each tip plays and plays, yet I am absent in every single one. My fear grows on me more and more before I decide to pick up the phone and do what I haven't done in 3 years. I call my family. The phone rings, but the line remains dead. I go online, trying to look for their social media accounts, but everything comes up empty. There isn't a single indication that they've ever existed. I go cold as the realization dawns on me. The familiar noise of the nearby railway have been silent for days. My mail is a week late. I haven't spoken to or seen another person in a week. I try to remember where I'm living, how I got here, and why I left, but I can't think of anything. I try to remember my mother's name, my sister's name, my own name, but all thoughts escape me except for one. I'm lost, and no one is looking for me. I woke up and walked over to the window to see some birds eating from a feeder, trees budding, grass getting greener, and so on. I told myself it's time for spring cleaning. Of course, it wasn't just me cleaning by myself. I had help, and we decided to start with the boxes in the closet. After rummaging through a couple of them, there was one that must have been twice as heavy as the others. I lifted the lid to the box, and it was full of old VHS tapes. Apparently, when you come across old home videos, it's a fact that you must watch them. There's no way out of it. The first tape that was slid into the DVD VHS player must have been a very old home video because I don't even remember filming it or recognize where it was shot. There were 3 young children playing with a pretty young woman in the front yard of a house, but their faces were distorted. It was as if they were out of focus and twisted. I didn't recognize any of them. As the video continued, the faces of the children and the woman became more and more unnatural. My heart began to beat faster. What is this? Who are those people? My God, their faces are awful. What's wrong with their faces? I yelled as my chest and my arms started to burn with an excruciating pain. My heart was racing, and I could feel my body struggling to inhale and exhale oxygen as it normally does with ease. All I can hear as I stared at the ceiling was something that sounded like a fire alarm and people shouting. I could feel myself finally fading away as I heard one last voice say in a panicked tone, I was just showing him some home videos of us and Mom. I thought it would help with his Alzheimer's.